3 weeks to go in the season, and the AFC divisions, all of them, could be clinched by the end of Saturday. That's where we're at, everybody. Let's get into these picks. What's going on, guys? Dick Support here, back with another video. Today we are talking about Week 16. It is crazy how fast this season is going, but we still have a lot that needs to be decided. Like I said, all the divisions in the AFC could be clinched. Others could get a playoff spot. Let's just jump right into these picks. Alright, our Thursday night game, Denver and the Chargers. For Denver, it's about as simple as this. Win, you're in. Win, you're in with a rookie quarterback. My goodness, Denver has just gotten better as the season has gone on, and that game against the Colts just absolutely proved it. That was a pretty amazing second half by them. Meanwhile, for the Chargers, they are coming off a tough loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That game, they were in it early, and then the wheels just fell off. Now, for Denver, they can't afford to lose this game and not really have too much happen. And really, the Chargers can too, but you'd rather have that security. I'm just going to go with the home team and go with the Chargers on this one. But really, with this game, anything would shock me. And I still expect both of these teams to make the playoffs. Houston taking on Kansas City. Houston, they have a very interesting scenario coming up because they have already clinched the AFC South. Now, if they lose this game and Pittsburgh wins against Baltimore, they would essentially be locked into that 4th seed. So, do we see them start to rest their guys with 2 weeks to go? That's a scenario that could happen. But as for this game, I'm definitely going Kansas City. And yes, I know, Patrick Mahomes has a high ankle sprain. I'm not concerned about that until I see it on the field. It seems like every time he gets hurt, he plays even better than what he was before. I'm just expecting Kansas City to take care of business. Pittsburgh taking on Baltimore. Baltimore, you get a playoff spot and you get to stay in the division race if you win at home against your rival. For Pittsburgh, simple as this. Win against Baltimore, you have the division and a shot at that number 2 seed if Buffalo falters at the end. Now, I am going to go Pittsburgh on this one. Baltimore, they have lost 9 of the last 10 against the Steelers. And I know this is the first time Lamar is playing at home against the Steelers since 2020. But I got to see it on the field. I'm not trusting the Ravens against the Steelers until I see them proven on the field. So, once again, I'm going Steelers over Ravens, and they get the division. Giants taking on Atlanta. For the Giants, not much more I can say. I mean, it was another tough game against the Ravens. At least they got 2 touchdowns. For Atlanta, they benched Kirk Cousins. Michael Penix is starting this week. It had to happen. Kirk Cousins has been struggling the last few weeks, and it's a perfect time to start him when you're playing against the Giants, whose defense, let's face it, is not that good. I'm going to go Atlanta no matter who the starting quarterback is, but for Penix, I'll say, let's go 180 to 200 yards, a touchdown, an interception. Let's say 20 rushing yards, maybe. Arizona taking on Carolina. Arizona, with that win against the Patriots, they are still in it for the NFC West. They got to get some wins. And for Carolina, look, it's going to be a while before they're really back to being a playoff team, but they've been fighting all year. I expect this to be a fight for Arizona. I do not expect them to come away with an easy win, but I do expect them to win this game to stay in the division race. Detroit taking on Chicago. For Chicago, oh man, they've just been on a downward spiral ever since they started 4-2. I mean, it just has not been good for this team, and the sooner the offseason comes, the better for them. Meanwhile, for Detroit, man, they had just been getting hit with injury after injury after injury. I mean, it's been rough for this team, and it really showed against the Bills. Now, they still were able to somehow mount a comeback and only lose by 6, but man, all the players that they have lost, I'm going to go Detroit over Chicago, but it's been a rough season for the Detroit defense when it comes to injuries and just with injuries in general. Tennessee taking on Indianapolis. For Indianapolis, they're still in it for a playoff spot, but they need to win out and have things go their way. Meanwhile, for Tennessee, I think it's safe to say the Will Levis era in Tennessee is over. I would expect the Titans to look at either a veteran or a rookie quarterback for the offseason, but games have still got to be played for this year. I'm going to go with Indianapolis over Tennessee. Rams taking on the Jets. The Rams, they have got red hot, and right now I have them as the favorite in the NFC West. Meanwhile, for the Jets, I mean, like I've said, they've been the most disappointing team in the NFL this year, and there's going to be a lot of decisions that need to be made. First things first, who are they going to hire as head coach? Second thing, what they do with Aaron Rodgers. For this game, give me the Rams. Philadelphia taking on Washington. For Philadelphia, man, Saquon Barkley is just too good. Now, I would be aware that he might have gotten hurt against the Steelers. We'll see how much that bothers him at the end of the season and going into the playoffs, but I'm not going to sound the alarm until I see him really struggle on the field. Meanwhile, for Washington, they need to win, I would say, at least 2 of their last 3 to comfortably get into the playoffs. If they win against their division rival, that'd be big for them to clinch a playoff spot. Unfortunately, I've got Philadelphia going on the road and beating Washington. Cleveland taking on Cincinnati. For Cincinnati, they still have an outside chance. It's not completely over for them, but they'd have to win out and have a lot of things go their way. And it's just been rough for this offense because this offense has just done so well this year, and it's just been let down by the Cincinnati defense. Meanwhile, for Cleveland, Jameis Winston is out. Dorian Thompson-Robinson is in. It'll be interesting to see what happens with this Cleveland offense. As for this game, give me Cincinnati. Minnesota taking on Seattle. Minnesota, with them winning on Monday night and the Lions losing, they are now tied for that division lead. This is going to be a battle going into the final 3 weeks of the season for the NFC North. I cannot wait to see what happens. Meanwhile, for Seattle, they are still in it. For the NFC West, they are tied with the Rams, but they need to win, all right? It's another team that needs to win games, and hopefully things go their way. But for this game, I'm going to go with the Vikings. New England taking on Buffalo. For New England, I've said it once, I'm going to say it again. Drake May is looking like a quarterback for the future for the Patriots, but they need to get pieces around him. They need to figure out who they're going to keep and who they're going to look to replace in the offseason. Meanwhile, for Buffalo, they know what they need to do. They want to get to a Super Bowl. You want to have at least that number 2 seed. Win the rest of your games. You are guaranteed that. Give me Buffalo over the Patriots. Jacksonville taking on the Raiders. For the Raiders, it's just been bad. I mean, they've lost 10 straight games, and just quarterback after quarterback for them. There's a lot of things that need to be done in the offseason. Meanwhile, for Jacksonville, we'll see if Peterson and Bulkey are going to stay after the season. I would have thought they'd be gone by now, but no, they're still here. I'd be shocked if both of them stayed after this year. For this game, it's a toss-up. Just give me Jacksonville and let's move on. San Francisco taking on Miami. For San Francisco, this is another team that's just been devastated with injuries. I mean, you've had guys that have gotten season-ending injuries like Brandon Ayuk, like Christian McCaffrey, and then guys that have been banged up during the season. Nick Bosa, Brock Purdy. It's just been a rough season for them. And surprisingly, if they went out and things go their way, they could still win this division somehow, but I just don't see that happening. Meanwhile, for Miami, they're still in it for the playoffs, but another team that they need to win out, and hopefully things can go their way. For this game, I'm just going to go with the home team and go with the Dolphins over the 49ers. Tampa Bay taking on Dallas. For Dallas, I mean, it's been a mediocre season for them. They haven't been downright awful, but they haven't been great either. I mean, they're just a team that's really in between, and they're going to have a lot of decisions to make in the offseason. Meanwhile, for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're still in it for the NFC South, and with Atlanta benching Kirk Cousins for Michael Penix, that does help them out. But they have to win their games, all right? They still have to play their games on Sunday to ensure that they can get this division. I say they get the win over the Cowboys. And last week, that was a very good win against the Chargers. All right, and our final game for the week is going to be New Orleans taking on Green Bay. Green Bay, it's about as simple as this. You win, you're in. You win, you're in. The NFC North has 3 playoff teams that could easily win any of these divisions in the NFL. I'm just going to say that right now. And Green Bay, even though they're the third best team in the NFC North, they could be a force in the playoffs if they are playing at their best. Meanwhile, for New Orleans, it's another one that's just been a rough season for them. And again, decisions are going to have to be made in the offseason. They're going to get a new head coach, probably going to get a new quarterback, and they need to figure out who's staying and who's going. Give me Green Bay over the Saints. Alright guys, those were my picks for Week 16. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. And as always, I will see you guys next time.